Hello, guys. This is our special education history project worked on by Ava, me, Emmanuel, Haley, Noah, and Chapel.
The first idea principle is zero reject. All means all ensures students with disabilities will receive the resources they need to learn. Schools must provide the needed resources to students with contagious diseases and severe disability. Zero reject also requires school discipline to become more lenient with disabled students. There are many steps taken before a disabled student is disciplined the same as a non disabled student, with short term discipline, long term discipline, IEP, FBA, and more.
The third principle of IDEA is free appropriate education. All students have accessibility to free and appropriate education, which includes that education has no cost to anyone, and it involves developing individualized plans for students, such as Individualized Education Program or IEP, and an Individualized Family Service Plan or IFSP. An IEP is for ages 3 through 21, while an IFSP is for ages 0 to 2. It is important that an IEP is enacted at the beginning of a school year. An IEP consists of measurable goals for the student to work towards that will be reviewed and revised every year. In addition, an IEP also consists of an inclusion plan for gen ed classes, assessment accommodations, and a transition plan for the student for when the student turns 16. Some common accommodations include a behavior improvement plan, assistive technology, communication supports, and/or visually impaired braille. IFSP is support for both the student and their family. An IFSP is developed no more than 45 days after a referral. In addition, the plan will be reviewed and revised every 6 months instead of 1 year.
So, for least restrictive environment, the textbook defines it as a rule requiring schools to educate students with disabilities alongside students without disabilities to the maximum extent appropriate with the use of supplementary aids and services, and to remove students to a more segregated setting only when instruction is not effective due to the nature of severity of the disability. So basically, this means that kids with disabilities should be in the same classroom as other kids as much as possible. This will promote inclusion and social development.
In education, when a student is disciplined, there is something called procedural due process that guarantees that they get a fair shake. It's the requirement of the school to give written notice and allow the student and their parents to defend or prove their innocence before any disciplinary actions are taken.
The last principle of IDEA is parental and student participation. Parents and students have the right to be a part of the IEP team and attend meetings. Students have the right to be involved in decision making regarding their education. Parents should be involved and notified of all IEP information and meetings, as well as other information pertaining to their child's education. Guardianship is also under parental participation. Guardianship is a legal process that puts a person, possibly a parent or other person, in charge of a disabled student's decisions. Supported decision making is becoming a larger practice where people with disabilities can maintain their rights even with a guardian.
And for our historical timeline, we set our first historical landmark on April 8th, 1829. And this was the establishment of the Perkins School for the Blind. It was the first school in the US to provide education for the visually impaired. And then we move on to October 27th, 1922, which was the establishment of the Council for Exceptional Children. This advocated for the rights and needs of students with disabilities. And then May 17th, 1954, which was the Supreme Court case of Brown versus the Board of Education. This was a ruling that racial segregation in public schools is unconstitutional and that education is a right.
Next is the passage of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. September 26 prohibited discrimination based on disability in programs receiving federal funding. Introduction of the Least Restrictive Environment (LRE) principle in January 1st, 1975 promoted inclusive practices and fostered social interaction and learning opportunities for students.
After that, we move on to the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Acts, the ADA, which happened on July 22nd, 1990, which prohibited discrimination against individuals with disabilities in different aspects of life. Next is October 30th, 1990, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. This emphasized the importance of individualized education plans, parental involvement, and inclusive practices.
The Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, on November 20th, 1998, guides instructional design and ensures access to education for students with diverse learning needs, as well as No Child Left Behind, or the NCLB, on January 8th, 2002, aimed to improve educational outcomes for all students. It was replaced by ESSA in 2015. The Response to Intervention, RTI, on March 19th, 2004, was a multi-tiered system of interventions to provide students with support based on their individual needs. As tech advances, the capabilities and depth of AI will also increase and become a better tool for us to use in the future. And as tech and AI grow more abundant, we will also see more ways for those with accessibility issues to interact and be a more integrated part of society.
Our second prediction is quite a negative one. We predict that there is going to be a decrease in teachers. Teachers are not currently paid proportionally to the work they do. The teacher salary and cost of living is growing at an unparalleled rate. Teachers are often not respected as well as they should be, and they are constantly under a lot of pressure. These circumstances will lead to a decrease in teachers staying within the profession.